if you want to support the show, any of the shows, either this or whichever show, I'm not on right now because it's just a blanket ad for all of them, and the website, you can go to bewareofspoilers.com. In the description for any of the episodes of Beware of Spoilers, there is the option to donate. If you don't want to donate that way, you can donate directly through the website. We do have that, mwpnews.com. And if you don't want to support that way, then going to mwpnews.com will help out because we have ads there. We don't want to keep it, where there's a lot of ads. There's a few ads. But the point is we want to make it so that way, we can sustain this for the long term. If people donate, we're never going to paywall anything, I don't think, as of right now. But if people, start donating, we'll start doing cooler and cooler stuff. Like donations are how we get to cover stuff like Tribeca and other, film festivals. And, we may be able to bring on more people to help out. So if you want to help out the show and you want more content from us, by all means, even just going and giving us a 5-star rating on Spotify helps out a lot. But that's it. That's the only ad we'll have on the podcast ever. But here's whatever podcast you're going to be listening to. Good evening and welcome to the Backlog Files. I am Adam. I am very tired. It's been just run down perpetually for like a month and a half, and it's like, well, I took the antibiotics and that solved the illness, but, we solved the underlying issue. I was just being tired all the time. Regardless, here we are, and we were talking about, Age of Empires, the remaster. I don't remember what the exact subtitle is off the top of my head. I should have written it down. I looked it up before I started recording. But regardless, Age of Empires remastered, reimagined, deified, I guess. For those who don't know, Age of Mythology is a different variation of Age of Empires, specifically centered around centered around gods and monsters and stuff like that, and how they can be used to shape civilization. Now, obviously, you don't play as any of the Abrahamic gods. You play as, Zeus and the Greek gods, or Odin and the Norse gods and stuff like that. And I think the game's pretty well balanced. I played a few matches, and I enjoyed what I played of the matches that I did. It's one of those things where it's like, if you're someone who is like me, coming from Civilization to Age of Empires, Age of Mythology, you may have some bit of a learning curve to adjust to. So that was, for me, the biggest issue. For me, the biggest issue was figuring out how to properly manipulate my people to properly, gather resources and things like that. Because it's kind of more like the Civilization game I play is Civilization 5. That's the one that if I'm going to play Civilization, that's what I'm going to play. I have 3, 4, 5, 6 on my Steam, but the one that I have installed in perpetuity is 5. And I think that the amount of stuff that's very well automated in those games does not exactly set you up for success in this if you go from one to the other. But it is pretty quick to teach you the right way. It is pretty quick to be like, okay, so here's how you play this game without feeling like you're being tutorialized to death. And I think that they do that very well. A lot of the things are pretty easy to understand and pretty, that is, if you gave me 100, if you asked me to bet $1 million what flag was going to be outside that house, Israel is not the flag I thought was going to be there. But regardless, it's like the it's a house that I pass on my way that has a, what's it called? It's got like this, the GDP of a small country in Trump flags outside this house. And I'm like, oh, this guy's a lunatic, and he's got the Israeli flag, and I'm like, not considering where these far fringes are of the Trump campaign, of the Trump, base. It's like, I wouldn't have thought he would be pro-Israel, yet here we are. Unless it's like a Trojan horse, you look at it, you're like, oh, that's cool, and then it's like it unfurls and it's something heinous, and you're like, oh, whoa, that's something. Anyway, I play this game, and I think the combat is kind of the place that I really enjoyed it the most, where it's like this idea of like being able to build up your army and use, and use your forces to take on the enemy. And I think that a lot of the features that go into that work very well. And I think a lot of the god powers and more, I forget what the exact term was, but like the mythical figures that go along with it are fairly well balanced. The only one I really ran into an issue with that I was like, oh, fuck, how do I deal with this? Because my build wasn't really set to deal with that, was the Frost Giant that an opponent had. And I'm like, how the fuck do I deal with this? I don't have any abilities that are like smite right now, so how can I smite this and just get rid of it? Because like even my strongest troops, if I build out the strongest version of my troops, they're not equipped to handle a Frost Giant. So it was like, oh, that kind of sucks. And that was my own fault, because like it was my first time playing, and I was like, oh, so I know now if I'm playing, against an opponent that has that has the ability to unlock the Frost Giant, the Frost Giant, mythical creature class, I know to make adjustments for that in the earlier game to set myself up on a path of success, based on what my minor god selection is. And then by then I was like, oh, okay, now it all makes sense. I get it now. The graphics are great. I think the graphics, look fantastic in this game, which is, if you're going to do this remaster, that's got to be the number one thing that's got to, that you got to do, because the original game still runs great anyway, so the graphics just being upgraded and the game not, turning my computer into a helicopter to play is definitely a big, plus. I enjoyed it. I did really enjoy it. And the thing is, too, it's like Age of Mythology is one of the best strategy games. So it stands to reason that the remaster of it, or Retold, that's what it is. It's Age of Mythology Retold. It stands to reason that this remaster would continue that. It's like last year, where it's like Resident Evil 4 is considered by many to be the best Resident Evil game, if not one of the best GameCube games, if not one of the best horror games ever made. So it stands to reason that like the remake of it would have a reasonably high bar, where you're like, this will be able to hit that as well. I just don't feel like, so like saying it's a Game of the Year contender doesn't feel exactly right. I do feel kind of the same way. My biggest complaint, and I kind of get why they went this route, is I feel like they're lacking in the number of gods you can play as and the number of world religions being represented. And I kind of understand why you do it. I mean, balance-wise, it's a little bit more difficult. The more unruly your metagame gets, with the more, different things that can be done, the more, what's it called? The more difficult it is to balance everything against each other. And then on top of that, too, there's also the question of how do you handle, like, you can then sell that as DLC if you want to include some of the Aztec gods, if you want to include some of the gods of, the Native American population in North America, if you want to include some of, like, the, if you want to differentiate and have you have your Greek gods, you have your Poseidon, you have your, that kind of stuff. If you want to include, like, the Roman variant, you can do a Roman pack and include some Roman gods. And I'm going to stop now before I make a fool of myself, because I don't know a ton about other religions. But there's plenty of room to be had. I mean, just go ask Rick Riordan, who's built a career out of elevating marginalized voices with his imprints surrounding Percy Jackson. Like, there's plenty to go around. And I like the use of the Atlantean kind of, setup as the more Earth-based, like the Titans and all that. I think that's an interesting way to kind of set them apart and have its own kind of class, to include similar gods, but different. Different gods that do similar things to other ones. It's an interesting approach rather than just having it be the same thing over and over again. And I appreciate they did that. What else did I want to address? I feel like there was more with this game. I really enjoyed it. If you have Game Pass, I would say this is definitely a must-play, because and I played it on PC. And I think that, for me, a strategy game will always play better on PC. I think that the ability to use, it's the only kind of game that I will use mouse and keyboard for is a strategy game. Anything else, I will plug my controller in and use a controller. But a strategy game, I like to be able to use the keyboard shortcuts and all that. Could you imagine, consensually playing Madden with a mouse and keyboard? What a sociopath. But I would this game, I think, works very well as a mouse and keyboard game. I didn't play it with the gamepad. I know it has gamepad support, and I do know that this game is also available on console. I don't know if the console, how well the controller mapping works. I know the reviews have been very positive, so I assume the controller mapping is pretty good. And the thing is, too, it's not quite as menu-heavy as, say, Civilization. Civilization is a very menu-heavy game. You're constantly going around, picking your city, picking what they're going to produce, picking what you want each troop to do, and move them, and attack things, and just something to scout, and, there's a lot that goes into it. That is not a two-lane road. But there's fundamentally a lot that goes into, setting up a game of Civilization. It is fundamentally different here because I feel like you're still moving the camera around a lot, and I do feel like with the controller that it'd feel a little bit smoother, especially if you're using the right stick for that. And maybe it is just the fact that, yes, I started out playing games on a console, so inherently I'm going to be more controller biased, but I feel like this is a game that would work well with a controller, because I feel like, again, you're doing a lot of simulation, but I don't think it's quite as much as it is, in Civilization. You're not quite as what's it called? You're not menu heavy where you're I have to go into this and I have to look at what they're doing here and control how this thing is going to, what's it called? How this character is going to move 3 turns from now, and where I want to move it to, and it's very much point and click. Okay, we're gonna click this guy, we're gonna move him over here, boom, boom, easy. Pick point A, pick point B, and it all kind of works out pretty well. That said, Civ 6 did run pretty well on the Switch. I think that the Switch edition of Civilization 6 worked well enough where I'm okay, well, based on that, I think this game should run smoothly as hell on a controller. I didn't try it, but, you're more than welcome to. And tell me I'm wrong if I'm wrong. But yeah, I would recommend playing Age of Mythology Retold. It's very fun. It scratches that itch that you may or may not have. If you're me, you get that every once in a while. The strategy game, the Civilization building strategy game, I think this one will satisfy that urge for a lot of people. But it's very much worth the time. I would recommend you check it out, and especially if you have PC Game Pass, where it's already included for free. But we'll wrap up there for today. Our next episode will be next Tuesday. We'll be getting back on our schedule where we go into Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, Explorers of Time and Darkness. We do have YouTube videos going up every once in a while, or fairly often. I think every Friday we have a Nuzlocke video that goes up as I play through a Nuzlocke run of Pokemon Red that's been randomized. It's not I would say it's not a true randomization because I downloaded a pre-randomized ROM, so anyone who downloads that ROM will get the same thing. The one we're doing right after is Gold version, which is true randomization. I randomized it myself using a randomizer. And so the degree to which we've randomized everything. So that will be going up. That'll be starting the week after we finish the Red randomized, hack. And then after that, we also are going to be doing a Stardew that we're still a ways away on. Don't worry, I did not forget about it. And the same goes for the Madden. I've retooled how we're going to do that. And there was one other thing that I wanted to do. I've started an ambitious new project. Josie's involved in this. Me and her are going to, in the near future, record the audio for the first episode of this, and then we're going to overlay it with the video. And if Josie ends up not enjoying this as much as I think she's going to, I think, because that happens from time to time, where I'm like, oh, here's a great idea. I think we'll both have fun with this. And then she kind of was like, well, it's not that good of an idea. And she'll tell me that like 4 weeks into it. I've built in a plan around that too. So we'll be starting with Kingdom Hearts in the near future. I've already recorded the first 4 episodes, but the issue is it's like the score for those games are so good, I have to play it with sound, which means I can't watch other things. So like tomorrow morning on 30 Minute Beware of Spoilers, we're going to talk about, or tomorrow evening by the time it goes up, we're going to talk about His Three Daughters, the new Netflix movie with Elizabeth Olsen and Carrie Coon and Natasha Lyonne, I think is who it is. And the one who was in Poker Face, and we're gonna do that. But to watch that, I can't do that and play Kingdom Hearts at the same time because the score of Kingdom Hearts is too good. But yeah, so that is going to be something that, luckily we got I've got 4 episodes recorded, so like once me and her start working on it, and we can get a few done. Like I have about a month done already. We just need to record our commentary over it. And they're an hour apiece, so it's, it's not overly time consuming, but I think this is going to be something that's going to be really fun, and really funny. So, get ready for that. Until our next episode, have a great rest of your week.